and the aftermath. Still with me, Jennifer Shen, Ted Golden, and Michael Sterling. I want to play a piece out of Detroit from our affiliate WXYZ, talking about, and it's an example of how some protesters are from the outside and instigating trouble within different regions, different cities. Take a look.
It was a group that came armed with railroad spikes and fireworks concealed in boxes labeled as food.
After 3 nights of unrest throughout Detroit, more than 250 have been arrested. 110 of those came just last night, and today Detroit's mayor and police chief said nearly 80% detained were from outside Detroit.
The people we arrested came from Macomb Township and Harrison Township and Clinton Township. They came from Port Huron and Ann Arbor. They came from Brentville, Tennessee. I don't even know where that is. And from Washington, D.C.
While the bulk of the arrests, Chief James Craig said, are for things like disorderly conduct or curfew violations, a growing number are for violent attacks on officers. At least one person was arrested last night for felonious assault.
That criminal decided to do one thing: lit a firework and toss it at the car.
While he wouldn't go into detail, Chief Craig said this is part of an organized criminal element. Inside this protein bar box found last night, he said, were railroad spikes.
These were being propelled. Small bricks or boulders. Fireworks.
Very organized, small group of people who were instigating violence. They were giving the commands over the walkie-talkie that orchestrated the confrontation with the police at police headquarters.
No charges have been brought so far, but tonight, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office tells me they are reviewing possible charges for at least 2 cases. Spokeswoman would not tell me where those 2 individuals reside.
But make no mistake, it's not over. And believe me, our investigation of the group that is instigating this is not over. It is very intense.
Ted Golden, when you look at that, and we're seeing this in other cities, not just Detroit, how do you, how does law enforcement weed out, find, basically dissect huge crowds of people and find those people that are there with the railroad spikes, with the fireworks, that are there to cause harm?
Well, like I said earlier, the best thing to do is to put undercover officers with the protesters. They can look at the circumstances, examine the bags these guys are carrying. You can tell if it's weighted down with stuff, and it's real obvious that they're up to something anyway. Especially if they got an alternate line of communications. They're not paying attention to what's going on, but they're maybe talking on walkie-talkies or talking on their cell phones as they plan to do what they do. And many times they become strategically located so that they are spread out. So realistically, you just got to take the chance and get you some undercover guys in there to figure out what they're going through. Next thing you should do is find out what kind of communications they're using. When they arrested these folks, they had cell phones on them, any kind of communications devices. They should have gotten those devices and actually tapped into them to find out, who they've been talking to, who are the other people involved, where they come from, because every organization has to have 2 things, communications and transportation. So when you can identify those 2 things, that helps you to be able to narrow down what you're dealing with.
Jennifer, the idea that people are coming from other spots, it's not like they're coming from Russia or China. They're all Americans. In fact, the mayor of Detroit is talking about this township. They're all from Michigan, most of them. And they're mad. And some people have argued, the only way we're going to get attention is to do something disruptive. It's not to peacefully protest. What should law enforcement be doing?
Well, it's difficult. It's really difficult position for law enforcement to be in because, they are law and order, and the large portion of their job is public safety. So they have to keep the public safe, and allowing, an element of people to burn buildings, break windows, steal things that result in other citizens losing their livelihoods, putting our police officers in danger, there's just so many things that they are doing that cause people to suffer, innocent people. could lose again their livelihoods. They are afraid. They can be injured. So it is the job of the police officer to keep our public safe. So it's these situations are nearly impossible to allow the peaceful protest, to allow voices to be heard, but stop the extra step of the violence. And I've heard that too. That if these protests are so huge and so violent and so traumatizing, that might be the catalyst to finally move this country to where it needs to be. But at what cost is that to the people, your public on the streets, that they could be in real danger from this kind of violent protest? So I don't. I'm just glad I'm not out there. I can tell you that it's got to be a nearly impossible job.
Michael Sterling, put your prosecutor hat on. Should the country be forceful in prosecution of the ones that do show up with railroad spikes? But if you come in with a backpack of railroad spikes, you're not there just to protest peacefully, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I think obviously individuals who are inciting the type of violence that isn't helping the moment or movement we in, yeah, they should be held accountable. I don't think there's any question about it. But I also think that we shouldn't miss how we got here, right? And it's a two-part analysis, Ted. It is, we've seen the betrayal of the oath of office that so many police officers took. As my colleague just mentioned, they're supposed to keep the public safe. Many of them have betrayed that trust. And we've seen it on camera. We've seen them kill on camera. And we've seen it happen moment after moment after moment. And I think we reached a breaking point because so many police officers betrayed the trust. And that's the first part of the analysis. But the second part is that there's been no accountability. So to prosecute, I believe that everyone should be treated equally under the law. As a former federal prosecutor, it was my goal to try to balance the scales of justice. And I would be just as forceful about going after police officers who betray the public's trust, who betray their oath of office, who betray what they were sworn an oath to do to protect and serve, who then go out and maliciously, recklessly murder someone, kill someone. I was aggressive about going after them because I think that's really what this is all about. It's about the fact that there is no accountability when they do it. There is no accountability when they betray their public trust and go out and kill someone. They largely don't find themselves on the wrong side of counsel's table being prosecuted for those crimes.
All right. Jennifer Shen, Ted Golden, thank you. Michael Sterling, you're going to stick around. We appreciate